Welcome to the Creative AI Show. What do we have this week, Brian?
Hey Rosh, happy to be here. We are two creative guys talking AI, and I don't know about you, but it's October over here, and I'm pretty heavy into a few workflows, and I've been really at my desk getting at it lately. So I wanted to talk to our creative AI audience about my two most useful tools that I'm using right now. One of them being the Canvas feature on ChatGPT 5. Absolutely loving it, using it for some collaborative work. Excited to deep dive on that. And then a tool that we don't really talk about too much because Runway has kind of been out of favor with us, if you will. It's just
Yeah.
not one of the elite video producing programs. But its OLIF video editor is absolutely fantastic. I've been using it for a lot more things than I could imagine, so I'm ready to chat about that.
hmm
What do you have going on today, my friend?
So I have to sit back here and eat the crow. And yeah, Sora 2, if you recall, last week I mentioned was not as good, and I may be
Hmm.
wrong. And
Yeah.
so we'll talk about that. And I also want to talk about the way I've been testing some of the new tests, because some of the tests we've been doing before are too easy now. So I want to
Okay.
talk about that
Yeah.
evolution. I want to talk about how I'm testing these different specifically the video side, but we can talk a
Yeah.
little bit of the imagery side too.
Well, I'm excited for that. And yeah, I've been definitely playing with different ways of prompting these videos, whether they be like a start and end frame with a prompt or a full on,
Right?
scene prompt. It very much, I get a different direction. And yeah, I'm excited to chat, hear what you have to hear about Sora 2. I want to know how you're getting to it and using it because I'm not as tech savvy as you on the back end of things. So I'm not even able to use it yet. So I think our audience might want to hear that a bit too.
Sure.
So, all right, but yeah, I want to dive on in. So, I'm working right now on a pretty complex project where we've got about 6 or 7 different people. At times we dip into too many chefs in the kitchen kind of thing. And there's been a lot of different directions for promoting a cool AI product. So, in a nutshell, what I've done is I've taken a monthly publication from a very high-end client, a client that we share,
hmm
and I turned it in using Google Labs, I turned it into a podcast.
hmm
And now this podcast, it started as just a podcast with, maybe introductions read by real humans and then modified into a podcast. But now we've gotten really in the weeds with it of how we're promoting it. And we're going to create 10 pieces of micro content that go with each podcast. So mostly reels and TikToks and shorts, stuff of that
Sure,
variety.
sure.
And, I've got a lot of members involved here. I've got a lot of people. So what I did was I used Canvas to go back and forth and be able to really generate a meeting plan and a deadline plan and a posting structure. And we're talking January through May here, where we're putting up 2 episodes a month, breaking each episode down into 10 bits of micro content. But to provide that overall organization and structure for this, Canvas has been great. And, as I go through and I'm like, oh, you know what? We're going to do maybe some of these clips, subbing out to Fiverr, or maybe my company, Great Scott Social Media, is going to produce these clips. So let's do a whole nother section in this Canvas about a cost benefit analysis of going
hmm
Fiverr versus, keeping it in house with my company. And just being able to kind of keep all these different abstract thoughts in one project together and keep them on the rails. Canvas has been just absolutely awesome to keep this all organized. And then the best part is my partner in crime on this, who works on the corporate end of things. I was able to share my GPT-5 Canvas file with her, and now she's a collaborator on it. So we can
Right.
both be looking at the same canvas at the same time. And she's literally, across the country, has her ChatGPT open and sees when I make a modification on it in real time. And, to be able to bring a team in together and use this creative tool that is not just doing what you prompt it to do, but it's thinking that next step and providing you even more information than maybe you even prompted it to. It's really been great. It's really able to give you, a good structured thinking without workflow, ideas for content planning, turns conversations into action. And that's the most important part is when we have this many people,
Yeah.
okay, meeting's over. What do we do next?
Right.
And and being able to lay it out there in a good canvas has been very, very helpful. Or do you use it a bunch? How have you
Not in
used
the
it?
way you're using it. I think that's excellent. I mean, that's what it's designed for. Multiple people working within AI together. And
Hmm.
because a lot of times it really is kind of a solo thing, but it doesn't have to be. And that's
Right.
that's a really good use of it. I mean, when I think of Canvas, I often think of Gemini's Canvas. I like that because it seems to be live. It works really well, but that's not what you're doing. You're more of the collaboration element, and
Yeah.
I think that's excellent use.
Yeah, yeah, it's been great. It's very rewarding, keeps everyone on track. Sometimes it feels like you're herding squirrels, and it keeps them all together on the same focus point. So, yeah, so that's kind of just my note here to the creative AIs listening. Use GPT-5 or Gemini's Canvas more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
More of this kind of stuff is going to come up. I mean, the OpenAI just released their new
Mhm.
agent system where it's really just drag and drop. And it's really cool. You can create your own agent that way. And
Yeah,
this is the kind of stuff, the practical approaches to
yeah.
using AI that's going to continue. I've played with the new agent mode option in OpenAI, and it's again very, very simple. And in these little things, and there's a lot of those little things even in ChatGPT. For example, when you are creating an image, you can just click on edit, and that's
Hmm.
been there a long time, where you can
Yeah,
highlight areas and say change this. And so it's just little things that you don't even think of that are there and are convenient.
yeah. So, all right, I used just a real quick side. I used the agent in ChatGPT 5. I kind of asked it, I'm like, hey, how do I access agent mode? And it's like, hey, I've been here the whole time. Um,
Yeah.
So, something that would have taken me about 4 steps of online research. All right.
Yeah.
So, being a musician, I like to, when we're in rehearsals, I have in-ear monitors. All right. And
Hmm.
we've got a system where we can get our own custom mixes. I've got my own little volume pack on the back and I can control my levels. But I forgot my in-ear monitors to rehearsal the other day, and I ended up using one of the studio over-ear ones.
Hmm.
And I found that the separation of the instruments and just the overall sound quality of over-ear versus something stuck in was way better. So I said to ChatGPT 5 agent, I said, hey, I'm thinking about switching to over-ear, not in-ear monitors. I want you to go and research at least 5 reputable blogs of musicians talking about which over-ear monitors they suggest for band practice rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
Now I want you to generate a list of the top 3 or 5. And you know what? Hey, it happens to be Amazon Prime Day. I want you to go on Amazon and find me the best value that you can of a top rated one and combine it with a factor of the percentage off we're getting for Prime Day. So I want the highest value with the best deal. And it did exactly that. And it
Wow.
took it about 3 or 4 minutes, and it came
Sure.
back and it said, like, hey, this JBL one was 159. We've got it for 99 right now. So you've got a 33% off deal with this number 2 rated one. Now the number 1 rated one is only 15% off. So I'm gonna let you decide what deal you want to do better.
Right.
But it laid it all out here. It did the research, it went online where, that might have been 20 minutes of me reading blogs and deciding what I want to do. And
Or even
I
more,
handed the
really.
keys over. Right,
Yeah.
yeah. I handed
That's
over the
great.
keys to agent and was able to use it. So I wasn't even planning on talking about that today, but I digress.
Yeah, no, that's a great example.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
all right, Sora 2, I need to know.
Sora 2. So I've done a couple comparisons. I compared it
Mhm.
to 1 2.5. I compared it to VO3.
Okay.
And wow, last week on the podcast, because I had seen some examples and I had heard some of that echoey voice, and I
Yep.
wasn't so sure for what I was seeing. Some stuff was good, but I wasn't sure, was it consistent? Was that just the best of the batch? And so I did those tests, figuring that Sora is going to be easily number three. And out of three of the initial, where I compared all three, it was number one. And
Oh.
one of them, it was number two. And it was just squeaked out. I think that VO3 won the day on a very specific thing. And I'm going
Got
to
it.
get into exactly the different types of tests that I use and the different prompts in a few moments in my next segment. But the physics is really good. I tested it against Ray 3 directly, and it really worked out well. I am finding that it is highly censored, meaning you can say something that may seem a little violent. It's really just action that I was asking for, and the other ones just created it automatically. But The Sora was nope, nope, can't do that. So that's something to
Oh,
consider. Uh, Go ahead.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say I don't think that that's half bad, just because we're in a politically sensitive time, and I don't really know if this many people need the availability to make things that could potentially be triggering and stuff. I don't know. I'm not always the biggest fan of censorship, but when we're in this type of world where we're creating video that looks so realistic,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think anything really needs to be inflammatory or anything.
Yeah, no, I know, but again, this seemed really tight because
Okay.
it really wasn't something that was going to be, uh, I would say necessarily triggering. It's just action kind of stuff. And
Got it.
so,
Understood.
but anyway, I mean, if you want to tell a story, sometimes you need something is in part of that story, and having it stop you it was kind of a bummer. Now, you'd
Yeah.
asked about where to find it, and that's a great question because
Yes.
even with my pro subscription that I stupidly
Hmm.
continue to pay month after month after month, I still don't have it.
Right.
Now, you can go to HeyGen, they have it there. It's
Oh, good.
available via API. So if you have an API, you can use it that way. But I used it at fall.ai, and that is kind of my go-to place. But there are
Hmm.
others. There's Router, there's some Hugging Face. That's another place. There are a number of places where, and even more than that, by far that I haven't even, I've been to once and I'm just forgetting their names, but I'll see, oh, they secretly put it on this site and secretly put it on that site and are testing it over here. And so there are a
Yeah.
lot of places where you can find even some of the future versions that say a Gemini, OpenAI are kind of playing with a that kind of kind of how the new Gemini AI image creator, we call it Nano Banana
Hmm.
because it was Nano Banana was the secret code and it
Right.
just stuck. So there are a lot of places, but I find Fall AI very easy because you can just say, give it $20. It's not a subscription necessarily. Maybe there's a $10, but you just add to it as you need it. And different platforms cost different amounts. So you can see the cost ahead of time. You can compare the costs and even compare them next to each other. I like to use traditionally the native platform most of the time. But in again, this situation, the only way I can get to Sora is using something like a Fall.ai. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I just opened HeyGen as you said that, and I saw it right up there in the top. And I mean, secretly, I was trying to do a video on it this week. I went over to Leonardo, being like, "Come on, please
Yeah,
have
I
it,"
looked
because
too, and it
yeah,
wasn't there yet.
Leonardo's
It'll be
been
there.
good about that.
So
Yeah,
it's going to be the
yeah,
flip of the
within the
coin.
next.
Who's going to do the Leonardo one, Sora 2? I mean, whoever gets it, I think it will be a good video. So
Yes, yeah, I agree. So keep yourself on the edge of your seat for that.
exactly right. All right, what else do you have?
All right, yeah, so we have Olaf, which I try to pronounce as Olaf, but it's this video editor built into Runway, and really it's what is giving Runway its separation or its thing, it's
They really kicked off the inline chat editing thing.
yeah. Oh, it's great having a chat mode in there and saying, "Hey, what can Olaf do?" And it gives you, examples. Like one of my favorite examples of when you do that in the chat mode, where it shows a clip of somebody's hand, kind of like their fist going out, and
Yeah,
then they have that fist then covered in flames.
right,
And I'm like, man, we paid thousands of dollars for this CGI technology as close as 5 years ago for
right.
kind of a scene like that. I'm thinking like Fantastic Four, kind of the fire guy, and he
Yeah,
reaches
yeah.
out and has fire on him, and that used to be really really high end CGI that like people in Hollywood made a lot of money to be able to make these scenes look good. Now
Hmm.
you literally just upload the clip to Runway and say add fire to the hand, and it does it. So
You're
I
right,
mean, there are, and the big thing with this is being able to say change the scenery. So like, it's an outside shot, and
right.
in your script it's raining that day and it's a sunny day. So you're gonna shoot it anyway. You're gonna upload it into Runway Aleph and say, hey, add rain to this, and it does a real
Really
good
good
job.
job. Yeah.
It's so good. So I'm like, all right, if it can add rain, if it can say change out somebody's outfit or maybe change out a character, can it change this whole scene entirely and just do something completely off the wall?
Yeah.
So I had this like scene that I generated through Kling 2.1, on a video I did maybe a month or so ago of this kind of like fantasy, this character. She's got a flowing dress on. She's reading a book and things are coming out of the book and coming to life. And
Hmm.
she's in this like mystical hallway and stuff. And I said, you know what? Change this whole scene and make it look like a 1930s mobster movie.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that is completely taking
Yeah.
this fantasy scene and just splitting it on its head. And Raj, it did such a good job. It changed the character 100% to look. She went from being blonde to this like dark brunette
Hmm.
with this like 1930s hat. The stuff that came out of the book wasn't these fantasy scenes anymore. It was actually smoke because what do they do in the movies in the 30s?
Yeah. Smoke.
They smoked. So, but even the scene itself looked like this film noir kind of, you know what I mean? That filter, that like dark lens in those
Yeah.
1930s
Yeah.
mobster movies. And it did it. It's not only adding rain, it's changing the scene to 90 years in the past and making it look like, I could put in a prompt and say, make this scene look like it's in the land of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it'll do it. It's whatever you can think of to change the scene. You have the ultimate creative control to be able to do this. And, there are ways where you can use this for some of your short form content to try to get attentions or pops or different things right in the beginning of a video. Or, say if you wanted a scene to be shot at golden hour, but you shot it at noon, you
Hmm.
can just add in the lighting. You can tell it to add some lens flare. And, not all these changes need to be wholeheartedly different. They can actually, some of these changes be very subtle, but give you just that look that you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
It, pretty amazing. And I mean, it came out what a couple months ago, and it really was an amazing, quite honestly, moment, especially the chat mode. But that
mhm.
Olive just being able to do those, but many of these platforms can do that in some way now. But I think Runway still has a little bit of an edge
Yes.
with its current platform. I mean, the all of them have something they do a little bit better, whether it's physics or now speech or background
Hmm.
sounds or whatever it may be, or just the cinematic elements of it. I mean,
Right.
it's all, yeah, it's amazing the way they are working like Ray 3 now being able to output in the cinematic formats that they use
Right.
in the higher end productions. I mean, that is that next step, and they're doing that now, just releasing that, and they're all going to be able to do that and have
Yeah.
different outputs and different looks. And we're really gonna, I mean, a year, 2 years from now, you and I are going to be talking about just the fine tuning.
Hmm.
And I think ultimately, well, it'll be to the point where we just we just have to talk about how to best tell stories with these things because they're
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm still excited for that moment because we're not there yet. I mean,
No.
it was great doing these examples and these comparisons because we do see it fail so often. We
Yeah.
see the opportunity of where it's going to go. And it's exciting that we're not quite there yet because now we can test ways where it's starting to kind of chip away. A sculpture, started as a piece of rock, and that you start to get a form of somebody. That's like Will Smith eating the spaghetti in the
Yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
and now we're starting to get the details of David chipped out of this, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's getting there closer and closer. So it's exciting, but I think that Olaf is actually just going to become a separate part of the workflow, kind of like After Effects or something like that,
Hmm.
where it's like, all right, I'm going to generate it in Ray or I'm going to make it in Veo 3 quality and have it be as good as it can. But then I'm going to get that last little bit of dramatic lighting or effect. So instead of over prompting your original one through Veo 3 or something like that to try to make it do too much, make it do what it's really good at and give the output the way you want from, whether it's the physics standpoint or the prompt adherence, and then get it over to something like Olive to maybe add the rain or add the sunset or add, whatever it is, and just have that be part of your creative workflow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, eventually they'll all do all, but I
Right.
think there still will be some specialty areas. And so, yeah, maybe to your point, Runway will be exactly like that, the After
Yeah.
Effects level. Who knows? Somebody's got to be that.
Right. So, and we're the ones testing these things out, and you say you've been doing some prompt testing lately. I'm excited to hear the different ways and results that you've had with that.
Yeah, when I first started, I started with when it came to video. I mean, I even did this with with the stills too was a husky running through a daisy field.
Yep.
And when we first started, or early on, the running through a daisy field, as simple as it sounds, wasn't that good. There's a
Right.
lot of morphing, it was tripping, it was, and even to this day, some of them have trouble with that one, but they keep getting better and better, and it gets smoother and smoother, and it's time to start upping the game. Now, obviously, one of the games that we're upping is the conversation element. And right now we have 1.2.5 and VO3 as well as
Cling.
Sora 2. And now we have to test the conversation between two, three, four people. How well,
Hmm.
and that's going to take some prompting and that's going to
Yeah.
take some practice. But those are the kinds of things we're going to have to test moving forward. How good is the AI at recognizing, hey, the redhead says this and the guy in the blue hat says that, and the
Yeah.
dog barks after they're done talking, that kind of precision. So that's the prompting development. You will have to get good at prompting. In other words, oh, this sounds familiar, becoming the AI director.
Mm-hmm.
The
Good for
creative
that.
AI director. Write that down. I wonder if anybody's thought of that. And letting the AIs know what they're seeing is what's their inspiration. And
Right.
so that learning to do that, but also developing longer prompts that have much more detail, fine detail. It, 3 seconds in, the glass falls off the table.
Right.
That kind of stuff. Getting more detail, the lighting, as you used in your example, the type of camera lens or lighting or a flare, whatever it may be, unique physics situations. And one of those areas is like the Rube Goldberg machine. That's something that I've started prompting a little bit more. And for those who don't know who Rube Goldberg is, he's an old time uh, artist, actually comic strip artist. And you've seen them before. They're the ones that are chain reaction machines. The ball
Right.
rolls down and falls onto this, that pops that clicks this to does that, and it goes through a whole process. And I found this to be an excellent, excellent prompt because they all fail.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, the physics
all
of
of
it's not
them.
quite
The,
right.
the
Yeah.
sounds, the physics, the process, they're horrible. So when you're prompting, I highly recommend that you have your husky running through a daisy field, and then along the way have a little bit tougher one that you can keep prompting so you can really see the difference. Because if you're doing something different every time, you're really not going to notice those minute things. So,
Right.
so
Have a
what have you been
control.
doing? What kind of prompting experiments have you been trying?
Yeah, I mean, I find that different tools respond to prompts of different lengths in different ways, which,
Yeah.
I think is an overstating of the obvious here. But I've found that, and I use my LLMs a lot of times to help me write these prompts.
Yeah.
And I will tell the LLM, hey, I'm using Veo 3. Hey, I'm using Kling 2.5 Turbo here. And so it knows, kind of which language to speak to prompt these programs correctly. And actually, I
Mhm.
found that since Sonnet 4.5 updated, it's been better on the Claude side of things. And that's really where the LLM I use
Yeah.
for these kinds of things. But what I've found though is that it's over prompting a lot of these programs, especially in the situation of say like a start frame or an end frame.
Hmm.
All right, so when you're already uploading an image to where it begins or where it ends, those are the situations where the prompt actually needs to be a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Don't over explain the scene. Give the computer credit that it's going to understand the scene that you've uploaded and simply state the character walks forward and picks up a piece of paper on the ground.
Right. Right.
Keep it simple like that. Whereas if we're starting a scene brand new and you need to give all the descriptors of it, obviously that prompt's going to be a lot longer. So yeah, and just sometimes having a control where it's like, I have a scene, I know what I want to do. All right, I'm gonna write as simple of a prompt as I possibly can to get this to happen. Okay, let's see how it looks. Okay, now I'm gonna develop this prompt into maybe like a paragraph long. Okay, let's see how it looks. All right, now I'm gonna drop this prompt into Claude and say, hey, here's my prompt. Here's really what I'm trying to accomplish with this scene. I'm not quite getting there. Tell Claude your problems and then say, expand upon this prompt to fix these problems.
Right.
and
Right.
see what it does and then test that and see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these are the ways we got to figure out all these programs
Yeah.
of,
Hey, I've taken, your lead on actually going to the AIs and saying, this is the platform I'm about to use.
yeah.
Or I am testing these different platforms and I need some really good but relevant for their style of
Right.
AI type of a prompt. And so I've taken that. And you also make a good point about letting the AI do its thing. It's kind of like letting the actor do the acting. You
Yeah,
know,
that's a great parallel.
I ran across somebody who critiques or writes scripts, and he was talking about how when you write a script, a screenplay, you don't put in the adjectives. You let the actor decide and interpret.
Hmm,
Basically, that this actor says that, not with emotion or with sadness. You let the actor decide. And
right.
and if you start putting all those adjectives and all those more details in there, you're not letting the director direct, you're not letting the actor act. Just give it the base idea. Now, you're obviously, if you want the AI, you want somebody to laugh, you need to let them know that the AI, the person in the red hat needs to start laughing. Those kinds of things have to happen. But look, if you have an actor in front of you, in front of a camera, that actor is going to interpret things. And
Yeah.
so the same thing goes with the AI. You're going to probably have to take a few takes before you get exactly what you want, or something quite often, and I'm sure that's happened to you, where I didn't even expect that, and that was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, happy mistakes are some of the best things. And it's just, but that same thing happens with an actor who ad libs a scene.
Yes,
And then all of a sudden you've got your happy accident, and that scene is way better than it could have happened because of a little bit of magic that happened. That's great.
absolutely. So
Yep. So
good
yeah,
stuff.
sometimes, hand the keys over to the AI and say, hey, what do you got?
You got it.
All
All
right.
right.
Here we go.
I think we've covered our week of stuff. And so you've been listening to two creative guys talking AI.
We'll talk to you next week. Thank you guys.